For the last week, I spent countless hours recreating this Dan Koe edit, stripping it down to its purest form. Here's what I set out to recreate: stark black and white color scheme, purposeful movement, and sound design that ties it all together. In my journey to master Dan Koe's editing style, I delved into every detail, from the subtle animations to the precise sound design. This isn't about imitation, it's about understanding the purpose behind every choice. Every great edit begins with a solid foundation. I started with an alpha background to set the resolution. I built 4 rectangles as the base of our animations, while merging an alpha background over the main background. I added 4 background nodes, attached rectangle mask, adjusted their dimensions, unchecked solid, and increased the border for crisp outlines for animation. I merged my shapes over the background and copy our settings from the first rectangle to the other 3. And set the color to white. Now I add transform nodes, which will control the movement and the size. I created 3 keyframes on the transform node for the first rectangle. 1 keyframe at its resting position, 1 keyframe at its lowest point, and the beginning keyframe out of view. You want to create a spline graph that has a sharp ascending curve, then flattens out. This will create an animation which is very quick in the beginning and then slows down. Then mirror these settings in the other rectangles, staggering the keyframes. When animating your rectangles this way, you'll need to adjust the X position to regain your spacing. Add a transform and enabling motion blur. You'll notice that the second and fourth rectangles fall just a bit farther than the first and third. Go to the middle keyframe on each transform for those rectangles and move it just a bit lower to create this effect. As the last rectangle bounces up, they expand into a square. I used the square rectangle node to set the spacing. Every movement in Dan Koe's edit is purposeful, so do not skip a step. Set up your temporary square, then use a transform node to move and rotate the rectangles to the square's edges. Next, have them rotate around in a circle. Notice the slow start and quick finish. The finely tuned spline graph. Now create the circles moving inward towards the center. First merge an alpha background after your rectangles. Then merge a white background masked by an ellipse over this new alpha. Right-click width, click the plus sign, and drag the line to height to tie them together. going to adjust the size and uncheck solid. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to add a transform and do further adjustments. Adjust the blend for a semi-transparent effect. Add a transform node to start the circle movement. We're going to move the center of the transform into our starting position, somewhere in the middle of the block. We're going to keyframe the size and the transform to hide our circles until we're ready for our animation to start. This only needs to be a frame or two long. Then we're going to scroll forward in the timeline to the end of the circle animation and set a keyframe on our center position. Then go back to the keyframe we set on our size and set another keyframe on our center position. You can then grab the keyframes in the viewer and set the path of our transform. Finally, we'll add a duplicate node to create the trail. We do that by adjusting the number of copies and the delay in the duplicate node. Smooth the animations and copy these nodes 3 times before merging. Adjust the angle on each merge to create 4 streams of circles appearing out of the center of each rectangle. You may have to adjust the center of those merges. And go back and adjust the path of the animation to get all the circles to meet somewhat in the middle. Creating a ellipse mask, tie the height to the width, adjust your size, and move it to the center of where your circles converge. Adjust the size and the soft edge to hide your circles once they finish their animation. Alright, we're going to grab a background node and merge it over our main timeline. Change it to alpha. We're going to copy the background, the transform, and the duplicate, and connect it to our new node structure. Grab a poly mask. I want to draw a triangle in the center of our animation. If you don't draw it in the center, it's not going to line up. It's much easier if you draw it directly in the center of our animation. Take some time to fine tune your triangle. If you need to see the triangle more clearly, click off of the polymask node. Then we need to come into the graph editor, select all of our key points for our new transform, and offset them to the original animation so the triangle follows our path of circles. After that, then we can copy the rest of our previous node structure and paste into our new node structure. Delete the duplicate nodes. I'm going to copy the transform and paste into all of our other transforms. Then copy our poly mask, paste it 3 times, and connect it to our new backgrounds. And quick and easy, we have our triangle animation. Lastly, we're going to make another ellipse mask and connect it to all of our merge nodes. I only want to grab a background node, merge it over our main node structure, copy our ellipse node. We're going to connect it to our new background node. Uncheck invert, make sure you have solid checked. I'm going to change the background to white. And we're going to keyframe the size to grow. As the first circle enters the middle of our animation, we'll set a keyframe. Then we'll scroll forward to the last circle that enters our animation and set another keyframe. So we want it to grow gradually over that time. And like with any of these animations, don't forget to go in your spline and adjust your curve accordingly. Now we need to animate our rectangles into the weight animation. So we're going to set keyframes on our transform for center and angle. Then we need to go into our rectangles. All of them, we're going to need keyframes on the corner radius. The two that animate to the outside need keyframes on the height. After we set all those, we're just going to slowly move all the blocks into position. It is pretty tedious and will take quite some time. If you're following along, I recommend downloading Dan Koe's short and putting it in the second viewer so you can follow along, line up your keyframes and animations. It will make this much easier. You can use a mask to line up your rectangles. We're going to use a radial blur to achieve this smearing effect as our rectangles rotate. Need a simple curve for it to be its peak right in the middle of the rotation. You'll see the animation is getting close, but we need to rotate our rectangles as they do this to get as close as we can to the original animation. Unfortunately, I'm about to find out that I didn't center my rectangles in the very beginning of this composition. It's going to cause me some issues. I do get it sorted out enough to keep on with the tutorial, but this is the second time I've done this. If you're following along, this is good to point out just how thoughtful Dan Koe is in his animations. The first animation isn't off by much, but it throws every other animation afterwards off. Now we just need to go through and make sure all of our animations have been smoothed out. It's a nice quick animation, so you want sharp curves. We're also going to go back and make sure all of our keyframes line up with the original animation's keyframes. You can select all your points and hold Alt and move the keyframes up and down the timeline in the spline graph. We're going to add a background node after the transform that controls our rotation. And we're going to mask it with a polyline. Set your points in between the weights. We're going to keyframe our level, position, and length to have it appear from a center point and expand to our weights. We're going to smooth the animation on our weight bar. Select everything and make some room and add another transform to create the upward movement on the weight bar. Using Dan Koe's original animation as a guideline, I'm going to set my keyframes on this new transform and smooth out the animation. We want a sharp acceleration and it slows down right at the end. Next, we're going to make some room again for the speed lines. I'm going to grab a background node and we're going to mask it with a polyline. Much like the weight bar, we're going to set our 2 points. Just kind of guesstimate, we can always adjust the length later. Don't forget to change your background to white, and we're going to merge it after the last transform we added. Set our border width and add a duplicate node. Now we want to adjust the center so we end up with 3 speed lines. Now you could do each one individually to make it look exactly like Dan Koe's animation. But I'm going to use a duplicate node and we're going to save a little bit of time. I think it still looks really good. We'll set our level to 0 and then go forward a frame and set it to 1 so we can hide these little dots. And then right as it reaches the top of the animation, we want to keyframe the length. As you see, I made the lines a bit too long, so I'm just adjusting that and keyframing the position so as the line moves up, it gets shorter. Next, you want to smooth out all your animations. Then I select these 2 points and hit F to flatten them out. And we have our speed lines. Now we're going to go into our duplicate node and play with the offset and the time delay to have them follow each other one after another. Just adds a little extra touch to the animation. Now we're going to select our speed lines and our duplicate node, and we're going to copy and paste. We'll merge them right over our other speed lines. From there, I'm going to add a transform. Move the center position over. At first, it's going to look like it doesn't work. Go back into the duplicate and adjust the center position there. You should see your 3 lines. Go back into your transform and flip the transform. Then it'll be a mirror image of the other side, and we have our animation. Thanks for watching this far. Like, comment, and subscribe for part 2 coming soon. Let's check out what our animation looks like so far.